This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody. I have such a special episode today to offer you. I am interviewing the authors of a new book, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools for Happiness. And I cannot wait to introduce you to three of our amazing authors today. Welcome, ladies. Glad you're here. So I have Maya Boston with me. She's an international transition guide, light language channel, and gong sound journey facilitator. Through the process of self-love and awakening of an inner knowing, revealed lifetimes of soul memory and a passion for her life's purpose as an alchemist of light and sound. I also have Miss Valerie Romanoff, guitarist, composer. Valerie Romanoff is the leader of the world-renowned Starlight Orchestra and producer of Groove into Bliss, musical meditations, and more. Valerie crafts unique experiences, taking her listeners through a full spectrum of music, from still, music for meditation, chill, music for activation, to thrill, music for celebration. And lastly, Miss Ingrid Auer is one of Europe's leading mediums, channeling messages and energized symbols and essences from the spiritual world. Since 1998, she's been writing spiritual books, which she receives as a medium. At the center of her work, she manufactures high vibrating, energized healing tools, which are used worldwide. Y'all feel the power of the women I have in the room today? I hope so, you guys. I'm so happy to have you here. I want to talk about happiness. I want to talk about this book. And Maya, let's start with you. So tell me about what the pursuit of happiness has really meant for you personally, and about this chapter that you wrote in the book.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for having me on your show. It's really been a journey in my life, for me to understand myself better, and in doing that, I've been able to live a happier life and a healthier life, because I found when I was happier, I was also healthier. So I claimed my sovereignty. And when I talk about sovereignty, I'm talking about the ability to be free from external the external influences around us in everyday life. I'm talking about being in a state of detachment, still observing. I can still observe the world around me, but I can feel it. I'm just not in reaction to it. So this is the path that I took to a more balanced and happier life.
I think that's really, I don't know why, but the word sovereignty has been coming up a lot lately in my world. I think I'm meant to hear it again from you today. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that means for our viewers who maybe even haven't heard the term before? What did that really mean when you started to first understand that word?
So sovereignty for me ultimately meant freedom. So somebody, for example, somebody could be yelling at me, and I'm in that state of detachment. I'm completely understanding why they're upset and they've raised their voice at me, but I'm not reacting to them. I'm not raising my voice back at them. I will respond from a very centered and grounded place with a very calm voice. And this is just one simple example out of everyday life, where we just don't have to be in reaction. I can see somebody's upset and something's going on for them. I can understand, I have compassion, but I am not buying into that energy. I'm consciously choosing not to engage in that energy with them.
I love that. Detachment is so important. We learned in a lot of the hands-on healing classes that I took over my career that you had to detach from the outcome, even of helping people. You really had to serve from a more neutral place. And that was the place you could serve the most from, right? Any of you want to make a comment about that, how that's played out in your life? Come on, you guys. I know you have something to say about that. Detachment. Valerie, what do you got?
Well, I think that when you're doing whatever your work is and whatever your offering is, if you really stay in a centered place, you know that you're bringing forth an experience, or you're offering an experience, and you're sharing into an experience. And sometimes for the healing or for just the betterment, you don't know what that looks like for yourself and for the other person. And so that sense of detachment, of not having a picture, of how it's supposed to look, which is very hard because we set out with an intention and we set out with with a goal perhaps. But I think what you said is very true, and it's very powerful, is that we don't know what that really means and really looks like from the highest perspective. And if we're in a centered place and we're bringing our best game for it, we and the person and the people, and, in my case, audiences and large amounts of people, you don't know what's the best and the highest and best. So at that point, you just, trust. And as I said, bring your best game and be unattached to what the outcome is.
So Valerie, let's stick with you and have you answer that same original question. What has the pursuit of happiness meant to you personally? And tell us a little bit about your chapter.
Yes. Okay. Well, I found it so interesting while I was writing my chapter. I felt the need to unpack certain things that I really hadn't thought about before. And what I realized was the pursuit of happiness really has been a lifelong goal for me, because it was actually something that was talked about in my family growing up. It was good to be happy. And if you weren't happy, well, what was wrong? Not so much even going into what was wrong, but like, let's fix that. Let's shift that. And so I had my own notions about happiness and almost expectations, and feeling like I was doing something wrong if I didn't feel happy. And so I carried that, and then I found a way to pretend that I was happy, or to present as happy, while I was trying to figure it out. Like, I don't know, because I wanted, like children do, we want the approval, we want the positive feedback, and we want to feel safe. And then simultaneously, the whole path of music. I've been a musician my whole life, and music made me feel good. Or it also, when I was writing the chapter, I learned something about myself, was that music also was able to help me tap into the feelings of sadness that I repressed. And if I would play some music that made me feel a little melancholy, there was some comfort in that, because I didn't allow that for myself in other aspects of my life. And I think it's true with everything, that when you resist something and when you don't open to it and surrender to it, it's not a good, clean relationship with it, because there's always something outstanding and there's something that you don't understand. And so for me, the path of music was always something, for the most part, that led me toward happiness, not only my own, but seeing other people be affected by music and feeling this incredible sense of purpose that, wow, I could play this music, or I could curate music, or I could compose music, and I could see the shift in people around me. And as somebody who really was invested in wanting other people to have a good experience, it was a wonderful tool. And then the third line was always about developing spirituality and the inner journey and the awakening. So all of those three things were the foundation points of my life and the healing. And what I started to learn later was how all of those tied together, and how the music not only can make people want to dance and get excited and really feel incredible joy, but music to help center and music for meditation became almost part of the vocation. It was offering music to help because a lot of people don't realize the benefit of meditation and just the quieting of the mind and the centering and going into a quiet place. And so offering music that helps with that, that has a peaceful vibration that really assists in the sitting quietly and finding an inner place is ultimately, I think, the first step of what leads to deep happiness, is finding that inner peaceful place. Because when we empower our lives with the personal connection, the inner connection, everything is better. And we open channels that might have been closed, and we release blocks and let well-being flow. And so the peaceful music and the music for meditation is a foundation and is a building block on the deeper happiness. I always feel before we get really up-tempo and music for joy, joyous expression and ecstatic expression, before we do that, I found that it's really valuable to first get into a centered place and spend a few minutes trying to figure out what do you want? You know, what are your intentions? What are your intentions for this day, for ultimately this life? And to have that kind of intention setting with yourself is very powerful for getting more out of each moment.
Thank you, Valerie. You said something earlier about growing up and learning that happiness was right. And that stuck with me for a moment. And, you know, of course, there's the yin and yang, and we want to be able to feel all the joy and all the sorrow. We need to have both things. We need one to know the other. We need both. And it's just making me think about that a little bit. It's interesting then that we will find ways to kind of pretend we're happy because we think happy is right. And then that kind of sets us up on this spiral, right? So, Ingrid, talk to me about your chapter and a little bit about what this pursuit of happiness has meant to you personally.
Yeah. I have been working for many years as a kinesiologist, and when I wrote the chapter, I remembered a young lady. She was one of my clients, and she was young, she was beautiful. She had 2 children, a very nice husband, a big house, and a good job, but she was not happy. And she couldn't be happy because she was always anxious that she might lose everything. So I had to realize that the absence of joy and happiness is fear and anxiety. And when I was a kinesiologist, I have been working with so many people, also with myself, of course, to get out of these demons, maybe from our childhood, from past lives. So it's very important to realize or to look behind the problem, to look behind anxiety, where they come from, and then find a method how one can get out of this. And I also realized that anxiety or fears can be transformed on different levels, on the physical level, the mental level, emotional level, and spiritual or energetical level. And this was my focus and still is my focus. And I have made a lot of experience also in my life, challenges, divorce, to lose my house, to lose money, a long-lasting illness of a child. So I always have to try and focus on the present, on the good sides of my life. And in my case, I always connect with the angels, not in a religious way, but in a spiritual way, because the angels can help us on the physical level, but also on the subtle bodies, the aura, the chakras, the morphogenetic field. And this is the way how I work together with them and how I open people's heart for the angels in many different ways. And this was a chapter I wrote about.
Thank you. I want to just say something about, you said, when you're in fear or anxiety, that's the opposite of happiness, right? There's that yin and yang again, but this is awareness, right? This is the practice of understanding what is happening in the moment so that you can wake up a little bit in that moment to have a choice. And that's part of my practice. If I'm aware, I've got the choice. If I'm not aware, then Maya said earlier, reacting to everything, right? So Ingrid, let me stay with you for a minute to talk about that a little bit. Like, how important is the awareness when it comes to happiness? It seems to me it's everything. How do you incorporate that piece?
Absolutely. I work with symbols, and the symbols are the translator of the unconscious problems. So they tell you the story, your own story, or the story about the client. And it's about awareness, but also self-responsibility, because if someone always feels like a victim, it's very hard to work with the person and get it out. So I would say the combination of awareness is the first step, and the second step to bring him to a self-reflection, to self-responsibility. And you have always clients who do not want to make the step forward because they think they are not able to. Sometimes they need a kick, sometimes they take longer, but most of them one day on their way, and then they understand what's about, because anxiety and fears are on a subconscious level, and to bring it up is the first step, and then they are aware, and then they can do the next step. This is how I work with them. Yeah.
You said something about symbols that you kind of ran through really, really fast. And I want to know more about that, because I don't think very many people understand symbols and how to use them. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah. In this case, I speak or talk about my symbols I have got from the spiritual world. The symbols are handmade or with cards, and each symbol has a special meaning, and they are also charged by the angels, by the ascended masters, so you can use them as healing tools, putting on the body, and the blockades on the spiritual level, for example, in the aura, in the chakras, in the morphogenetic field, are transformed. This is the one part of my symbols. The other part is that they make you aware of what you are not aware, because they show up what's the problem behind the problem. And if you don't know a person and you work with the symbols, you can put the problem in front of the person and tell him his story, even if you don't know the person at all, because the symbol tell you the story. And this is how I work and what I really like. Yeah.
That's, and of course, an awareness tool. I love the topic of awareness. I could have a whole podcast about awareness, I think, right? We could talk about that till the end of days. Valerie, let me go over to you now to talk about that same thing. So how important is awareness in your life and when it comes to happiness? And talk to us about your practice. Oh, unmute yourself, girl.
Thank you. Sorry. I agree with you. I think awareness is very, very important, because awareness and attention, because for one, there's many aspects, but for one thing is, if you really look at, this is a vibrational universe and we are vibration and everything is vibration and energy, then our thoughts are vibration and energy affecting other vibration and energy. So when we put our attention on something, when we think about something, it activates that thing, and that thing becomes more alive and is a point of attraction, and it attracts more like that. And so I know for myself, becoming aware, well, let me start with realizing I wasn't aware. And then I felt at a disadvantage. I felt like I didn't understand what I was reacting to or how I was feeling, or I didn't understand what was really happening. And so the more that I learned that and studied and had practices that I'll talk about, evolving practices, it kept me in an awareness of who I am, but it also made me see the way I would react to things. And then, of course, you understand it, and then you have a choice. Am I going to react that way? Am I going to stop for a minute? And in the stopping for a minute before reacting is a benefit of meditation, is you learn that, you develop that muscle by sitting in a practice where if your mind is wandering and you bring your mind back to something very simple, like breath, for example, you start to learn something and develop a muscle in a way of doing that, of stopping. There's that, people call it a pause, they call it a gap, but it's that moment of before you react or before you do something, bringing, making some modification that is for your benefit and is helpful. And so my practices, well, also, I also wanted to acknowledge something that Ingrid said is I also have looked for the symbols around me and the messages around me in my world, and pulling certain cards, oracle cards, or readings with cards, the medicine card. There's so many ways to invite the symbols into your life and to look at them, and then to try to either with a facilitator or even just tapping into your own intuition. So for me, awareness is also focusing on the things that I want to attract into my life or that I want to attain. Is you have to identify them, and then you want to put your attention on them. And so to me, the attention and intention and awareness are all parts of manifesting tools. They're manifesting what we want because we're consciously drawing that to us. So I think that's another powerful tool. All of these things are tools for being healthy, being happy, being in the moment, and empowering your life.
Yes, most definitely. That thing that you think about, that's what you're making come alive. I heard you say those words. And if we really just took that one sentence for a minute and thought about that and gave ourselves the choice by being, having that awareness practice really means everything, because whatever it is there, that's what you're making come alive. Like, oh my goodness. Okay. Then all of the stuff that we're pulling in, like the worry and the anxiety and the fear, we're making those things come alive by consciously staying there. So that waking up in that moment, right? Then, okay, is that really serving me right now? Like, what would be a better, healthier thing? What would be more aligned with my dreams? And this is such a juicy, awesome topic. Anything else you wanted to say about that, Valerie?
Yeah, I do want to say as a personal practice, you can't ignore, you don't want to just ignore things that are happening and just really be in resistance or repress things, because then that just goes inward, and then that comes out in other ways, and that energy, it doesn't disappear. And so, but it is very much a choice of what you're going to think about. And that is very habitual, so there's a retraining and there's practice that needs to happen in order to, it's so natural to think about what you're worried about instead of, so like, I know for myself, I will make a conscious time, a little time to either write my intentions or think about what I want, or I have a chanting practice, several chanting practices actually that I do. And sometimes if I'm really upset about something, or I can't stop that train, that kind of mind from going to those places, I need to get it off my chest. And very often I'll sit and I'll open a journal and I'll just write and I'll rant, about whatever is bothering me, and, just sort of get it out. So get it in one place so I could move through it and leave it alone, and then say, okay, yes, a part of me feels that way, and that's okay. And then there's one other thing that I just want to throw into the mix. And I'm sure Maya's going to talk more about this, and because you sort of just touched on it, but the concept of loving self, of self-love, of being easy on ourselves, about saying positive things to ourselves. And because I think some of the worry and the anxiety comes from the way we are talking to ourselves and the way we're beating ourselves up, and the false beliefs that we have and the stories that we've carried for our whole lives, and the voices of somebody that's not us that has become us, that we've internalized. And so a lot of that is also stop just trying to not do that, trying to replace and reframe and reword with concepts that are healing to the self and nurturing and loving.
Yes, all ingrained habits, which requires the retraining. And it's just so important, right, to understand some of these ideas. Thank you. Maya, how about you? Let's let's see what you think about this. And tell me about awareness and happiness and how you practice.
Sure. I'd have to agree with all of you because there's so many tools out there, and so many things work for some people and don't work for others, and that's why we have this wonderful array of different tools for awareness. And I would definitely have to agree that awareness is the one of the most foundational building blocks of our journey through to a happier, more balanced life. So awareness and how I do it personally is what I wrote about in my chapter in the lovely book that I got to participate in, and that was, we can call it meditation, and I think in my experience, when I've mentioned the word meditation to people, then they somehow have this image in their mind that meditation is, sitting on the floor and tying yourself up in knots and chanting Om all day, for hours on end. But so I changed the word to use more of the word introspection, because that's what it is. It's a quiet time. It's going inward. And when you get quiet, I think Valerie touched on that, when you get quiet, that's when you get centered and grounded, and you start to breathe. I mean, the breath was even mentioned earlier as well. So we get to breathe deeper as well. So we're not breathing from that stressed response, shallow from the chest. As soon as we signal to the body and we're taking deeper, slower breaths, we're telling the body to go into the rest, rejuvenate state rather than that fight or flight state. So awareness even of how we're breathing in any given moment is a wonderful tool. So awareness of how our emotions, how we're feeling in any given moment. But even if we're so busy in the mind and during the course of the day, even if you just took that 10-15 minutes of introspection time in the evening, for example, before you go to bed, even that is beneficial, because you're just sort of playing back the course of your day, and then we go into the self-love part, where we're not sort of judging and criticizing ourselves, but just noticing, well, I could have really handled that situation a little bit better than I had today. So what can I do? So it's simply just asking yourself, I think, as you said, Laura, about it, just doing it in a more loving way, and not beating ourselves up, and just how can we do it more gently, so it's not so harsh. The questions that we ask ourselves, so they're not a self-criticism. It's just an assessment of, okay, I noticed and I admit, I put my hand up, I didn't handle that so well, but the next time I come to that kind of situation, I could do something different. Or maybe thinking, well, I didn't handle that situation so well, but if I could maybe just go back to that person and apologize and say, in the heat of the moment, it's not really what I meant to say, and tell them exactly what it was that you did want to say. So it doesn't matter that, we weren't aware in the moment. That comes with practice, as we've already talked about. But it's just any time of the day that you can give yourself to that introspection, to become more aware, to be more self-loving. I think, and self-love, again, is one of those foundational building blocks of our journey into a happier, more balanced life, a healthier. Happiness I also equate with health, because we tend to be more healthier. We're not focusing, again, what's already been mentioned, focusing on the negative things in life. we focus on the more positive things, that's what we give energy to. That's what we make come alive, as was the term that was mentioned earlier. So all of that has definitely been a personal journey for myself, which is why I wrote about it in the chapter. And I also found, and Valerie touched on that as well, about sound music. So I don't actually do music as such, because to me, sometimes music can kind of get stuck in your head. You know, when you get a song stuck in your head and it's played over and over. To me, a soundscape engages the right side of the brain rather than the left side, because when we're listening to music, sometimes it gets stuck in there, and that's engaging the left side. When the right side's engaged, I find that even experienced meditators find it very easy going into a soundscape and being able to meditate from that point, because they immediately go into that creative space, and they go into their visions. So the tools that I have used are gong sound journeys, and of course later, as a result of the gong sound journeys that I have done for my clients and various groups that I have worked with over the years, I also developed light language that came to me as a lovely gift as well. So I use the two creative frequencies of the universe, light and sound, in order to bring awareness to situations in people's lives when they come to me for assistance. The sound is used as a tool to help them get into that meditative state, or that introspective state, and to start looking inward. So they're the tools that certainly have helped me. And despite the roller coaster ride and all the ups and downs of my life, and I think sometimes my life's been really out there, despite all of that, I wouldn't change any of it, simply because I found what was just right, not just for myself, but for so many of my clients as well. So that's been an absolute blessing for me, and has brought even more happiness.
You touched on something a few minutes ago that was super duper transformational for me, that kind of awareness. And it was maybe, I don't know if this is the right word, latent awareness. Like you said it doesn't matter when it happens. And so in a later moment, I would wake up and I would realize what I had said or how I had been with, and I'm thinking right now of my daughter, my children. And what mattered was that I got my ass out of the chair, walked to her bedroom at whatever moment I did wake up, and said, you know what? I'm sorry I said that. It's not what I meant. And here's what I want you to know about you and why you're so important to me, And so those moments sometimes were even better than the ones I was instantly waking up. They're all good. Like, I'll take all of them.
Sure.
But when you can really realize something and you go back and offer that awareness to the person, what a gift. What a gift that is, to that person. So listeners, this beautiful, amazing, fantastic book about happiness is going to be launching on February 11th, 2021. So if you're listening before the 11th, it's coming. And we're going to have a little launch party on the 11th on the Circles of Inspiration page on Facebook. So you will be able to come and join in on and listen in, and there'll be some giveaways and fun stuff. You might be listening after the 11th, in which case you're going to find that book link right down below us, right? So you can get your copy. But I wanted to say to these authors, just to break here for a minute, break of gratitude, thank you for saying yes to this project. And thank you for stepping up and so authentically sharing those brave stories that you shared in this book. And not only that, but your expert tool, your modality, like helping somebody really into the world where they can have a practical experience right there in the chapter. That's been key for these books in terms of just their power. They're really changing the world, ladies. So I wanted to say thank you before we move on to this last topic, which Maya, I'm going to stay with you for this first one. And I want all of you ladies to think about this, because I'll have you all answer it. But, you know, people are listening and they're nodding their heads at you all, and they're getting the topics, and they, I think, crave this so deeply to have these experiences. But a lot of our viewers are probably still struggling. You all know the year that we've been through and all of the different things going on, right? And so sometimes happiness feels impossible. And what I want, Maya, let's start with you. What would you offer somebody who's just still struggling as maybe one of your entry points, very simple way to move into that healing journey?
Right. Yeah. I had a lot of clients last year that were really struggling. So a couple of months ago, I downloaded. They gave me a download of a program, and so it's my 22-day program of transformation to a better version of yourself. It's called Accelerated Awakenings. It's 22 days of me supporting you at wherever you're at. So whether you're just a beginner or whether you're quite a practiced person on this journey of self-discovery, I have in that package, I have personal sessions. I have a personal gong sound journey, a track that I actually create for you that helps you to meditate, to do that introspective journey, but it also helps to raise your vibration. And I've got lots of I've got 22 days of inspirational thoughts and that I send to the clients in the form of emails. And of course the personal sessions that are a part of that program as well. So you have my full attention for 22 days, because it takes 21 days to change a neural pathway in your brain. So I'm there the whole way with you to help you change some habits that you want to change in your life, and to turn it around so that you can live a happier, balanced, and healthier life.
Thank you, Maya. Of course, you know, everybody here, you guys are going to be able to explore their worlds further. I have the websites down below. We're going to share that contact information in a moment. Maya, you all have amazing programs. I want you to talk to the viewer right this moment and tell them a piece of advice that they can practice right now. I'm challenging you.
Take a deep breath and just feel into yourself. Where are you at? What are you actually feeling in this moment? And whatever that is, it's not the end of the world. It's not set in stone. You can change it. You are in charge. And it's about taking responsibility for your life and your state of being, taking responsibility for your energy, because more and more we're beginning to recognize each other, not just by sight using our eyes, but we're recognizing each other with the energy that we carry, which, you know, our signature energy. And so your signature energy at the moment, for most people, it's on an unconscious level. We all read each other's energy, but we read it on an unconscious level. So, but we're going to be doing that more consciously. So your signature energy is like your calling card. It speaks long before you open your mouth to speak. and therefore taking responsibility for your energy, for your state of being, for your emotions, for your life is the way to upgrade your energy, to up level it. It doesn't matter how low you feel, you have the power to change it, to change your state of being, no matter where you find yourself in your life. That power rests with you. It is your birthright.
Thank you, Maya. Beautiful. Valerie, I'm going to ask you the same question, just thinking about our listeners and viewers right now and offering to somebody, you know, who might still be struggling with this whole topic of happiness, little support, little advice. What do you got for them?
First of all, I love everything Maya said. I would do that, and I would enroll immediately in her 22-day course. You know, it's so funny. I think that there's so many different ways of saying the same thing, and coming back to some really, really simple concepts. And I think that we all even know that. And when we hear things, it just rings true. Like, I knew that, I just forgot. Like, for me, I would say the biggest thing is bringing into my awareness and remembering all of the amazing things I know and all of the amazing things that there are out there to use as inspiration. And so more specifically, what I would say is to make choices to do things that really do make you happy. So I'm talking to all of us, you know, who on a bad day, or if we're having a time, or everyone who's struggling, it's find something, you know, even if it's one thing, but really being in the moment and just thinking about now. Because right away, there's a lot of the anxiety and fear that we have is about the future, or is about remembering things from the past. But we don't always really take advantage of the fact that in this very moment, we're safe. And we're fine, and we're provided for. And I read something recently that just so blew my mind. It was just that the one thing that we take for granted, the one thing that we absolutely need to survive is air, is breath. And it's the one thing we don't worry about, for the most part, about having the next one of. It's like we don't worry, we take a breath and we're not anxious, like, oh my God, where's that next breath coming from? So, you know, first of all, just to acknowledge that we actually really have everything we need in this moment. And then to seek out what's going to make me happy. What am I going to like? What kind of thing can I do for myself right now that will feel good? You know, what little thing, or big thing, but you know, what little thing can I do to soothe myself and to feel good? And then thank yourself for that. Say, thank you. That was such a great moment. And, you know, there's another thing too, a little practice, and it's going to sound so silly, but if you look in the mirror and you just like really look at yourself and look in your eyes and just say hi, you know, connect, and then say, I love you. And it sounds silly, but I know that the times I actually really will do that, there's a benefit of it. And because, you know, this energy that we put out to other people, we often will put out a lot of loving energy, but we don't do that to ourselves. So I would say first and foremost to really focus on that, or really bring that into, like, realize it's important and try it. And then the other thing is, there is a lot of inspiring information out there, and seek, you know, there's so many ways to find the little tips and tools, because it is all about activating a memory inside, or activating, you know, just a raising of a certain vibration that brings us into well-being. So everything we can do to relax, open the channels of well-being. So it, you know, it's that tight holding on that prevents that energy from flowing through. Awesome. I can go on and on.
I know, of course. Thank you for that. Ingrid, let's finish that one with you. What would you offer somebody who's struggling right now in terms of just an easy entry point, little words of advice?
I would invite them, or ask them, to open up their hearts for the angels, because they are like your spiritual bodyguards, your friends. You can't see them, but they are here. You can connect with them. You can feel them. You can tell them your sorrow, your pain, your loss, everything. And you can do it anytime. Of course, some people want to pray, but you can talk like friends. You can say, angel, sit here beside me. I have to talk to you, or I have to ask you a question. I need your support. I need your protection, anything. And so it's really easy to get this kind of help, to get this kind of support. You can do it while you are driving a car. You can do while you are ironing. You can do it while you're in the shower. So there is no meditation necessary to do this. You can do it spontaneously. And if you want to cry, and if you want to shout, and if you want to, the angels are always here, and they accept, and they love, and they hug, and they understand. And this is my message to the world, or my message to people. Try the angels, test them, figure out how they work. You can't do anything wrong, and everyone comes to this planet with at least 2 guardian angels. And the more you are open for angels, the more angels will be on your side. It's up to you to figure out how it works, and you will see it will work. This is my answer to your question.
I love that. I love thinking that I have at least 2 people on my angel posse at all times for everything that I need. And do you guys still iron? Really? You're giving me this picture, I'm having a flashback of my ironing day. Ladies,
I on this. This was the only one, the last one.
Ladies, you are all so awesome. Again, thank you so much for saying yes to this project. Thank you for stepping up and writing your stories and sharing them. Thank you for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for making it possible.
So, viewers, again, the amazing book that we are talking about, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools for Happiness. Imagine having 25 happiness coaches, you guys. We have these books. They're like amazing little toolkits, and they're going to give you all kinds of ideas, modalities, things to try, things to think about, awareness practices, a lot of power packed in these books. February 11th, the happiness book comes out, 2021. Join us on the Circles of Inspiration page on Facebook for a little live stream launch party that morning. And of course, if you're listening after the 11th, we're going to have the book link down here in the show notes. Maya, where can people come and find out more about you?
My website, it's www.mayagongs.com. And I've got lots of things on there that can help people, assist people with their journey to happiness.
Awesome. Valerie, how about you? Where can we find more about you?
ValerieRomanoffMusic.com. My website has a lot of music. It has links to my CDs. It has a lot of articles and a lot of happenings on my Groove into Bliss show, where that's going to be. So come to my website and visit.
Perfect. How about you, Ingrid?
My website is ingridauer.com or ingridauer.us. And my second home is Facebook. So you will find me anytime on Facebook.
Okay, great. You guys take a look into the show notes, explore these amazing, powerful, expert, gorgeous healers. They have so much to offer you in the terms of happiness and everything else for that matter. I hope you take the next step and explore their worlds and learn something new. And lastly, y'all, I love to finish these shows with a big question, because the big juicy questions put you in an energy of possibility. So here it is. What if there is something you haven't learned yet about happiness that could change everything? It's time to be brave. This book has a couple of those somethings in it. So we hope you pick it up, and we will see you next time. Bye, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.